Are you a bad enough dude to prop up the military-industrial complex? Are you ready to shoot stupid innocents who wander into view at the worst possible time? Are you prepared to shoot some terrorists played by the same 3 digitized actors over and over and over and over and over and You may have played this one at your local bowling alley or movie theater. Target Terror is one of many light gun games that eventually found itself on the Wii. I have a soft spot for arcade ports and light gun games, even though the soft spot within my soft spot is slightly calloused for this one. I enjoyed playing the Target Terror cabinet despite the difficulty and unfairness, but cheap damage is a given with this kind of game. Wherever they are, they must also eat quarters. It's just the nature of the business. Once you learn the arcade game business model, you can't unlearn it. Sorry. The overall structure of Target Terror is a bit different from the arcade version. The 10 different levels are here as in the original, but you progress through them linearly in the port. You eventually unlock the privilege of starting the scenarios out of order at your discretion when you successfully traverse through them. You're given 30 credits to start, 6 damage points per credit, and you will need absolutely all of them and then some. The quarter gobbling cheapness carries over to the Wii port in full with some new and exciting problems not present in its cabinet iteration. The main problem with arcade game ports to consoles, even though I usually like them a lot, is that they might as well place a game's shortcomings under a microscope. These aren't shortcomings that one could readily point out under original circumstances, since there's a cost associated with analyzing them in the arcade. No one punches their tokens into the coin slot to revisit the questionable parts of the game just to make sure that out-of-nowhere gunman really shot you, or if the game was just stealing the bang out of your buck. On the console, you pay your money and the game is yours to revisit repeatedly at will, so it's otherwise hard to detect problems lose much of their cover. Playing Target Terror's levels a few times through, I noticed several points where there was no possible way for my trigger speed to clock in at a time requisite for preventing damage done to me. I understand the reason behind designing the game so that it blindsides those new to it. Killing the player faster prompts them to spill more coins into the machine. Yeah, money to make. I get it. But there is usually so much chaos happening on the screen here, rendering it difficult to see where the sources of sudden damage originate, so I can better memorize a preemptive point of attack. And even after repeating the level, I still had a hard time memorizing enemy locations because of all the explosions, power-ups, breaking glass, you name it, happening all at the same time. If I had the arcade version of Target Terror, this would be my biggest complaint. The handling of the Wii port is really botched. I can think of no other way to describe it. The enemies here are made with digitized videos of real-life people placed in pre-rendered computer-generated environments like in Maximum Force or Area 51. They look good in the arcade version, but are noticeably downscaled on the Wii. Despite this, the Wii's hardware can only handle a few on the screen at once. Mix these pieces of duplicated video footage with all the extra effects taking place, and what you get is a game that stops and stutters noticeably at very inopportune times. If there's one thing you don't want your light gun game doing, it is this. Nothing should compromise player reaction. Success and failure are separated by a thin line in games such as these. Frame skips during heavy action make this already difficult game even more unfair. Again, the goal is to complete all 10 levels within the allotment of tokens given to the player. You get 30 to start, but this wasn't enough to get me through to the end before depleting my supply. Each time you empty your credit bank, you're given 10 more than before, but with a catch. You have to beat all the levels again. This alleviates some of Target Terror's difficulty. I did not capture footage of this happening, but on one occasion, the exploding barrels found throughout most levels refuse to explode when shot. These barrels are useful because they can take out a few enemies at once if the shot is timed correctly, so this glitch augmented the already punishing difficulty. I can't begin to understand how a strictly rail shooter can have glitches, but whoever was tasked with porting this game to the Wii accomplished just that. This is not a good port at all, but it's not all bad. The game's Interstitial news network, Raw News, presented in short clips before the start of each level, is a highlight. Their anchor is this blonde lady.
Terrorists have seized the baggage claim. Let's go to the action right now.
Hey, lady, your tone of voice does not convey an active terrorist situation. It sounds like you're sad over a story about a puppy cancer ward or something.
Terror strikes atop the Golden Gate Bridge. Let's go live right now.
My prayers have been answered. The irreverence with which terrorism is treated in Target Terror is a little shocking. Consider the cultural environment at the time. The arcade release was sometime in 2004. This year was close to, if not the height for rah-rah militaristic fervor in America. And here's a game that has its portrayal of terrorists tossing weaponized turkeys at you in a minigame. None of the other minigames sprinkled throughout Target Terror reach a height of comparable absurdity, but they're all ridiculous in their own special ways, and they're not saddled with frame chugging or glitches like in the main game. Target Terror on the Wii has a lot of problems, but I won't lie, I had a lot of fun with it. A mindless kind of fun, but give it any bit of critical thought and that enjoyment dissipates. It vanishes like patriotism when you realize that every major terrorist organization is propped up by those claiming to fight them. Keep waving that flag.